Thank you everyone for, I'm happy to be here this morning, and I'm excited. I'm probably not as chipper as you because I got up about 3 this morning to get here. But I am happy to talk about this project because at this point, my day job is exactly what was mentioned. I'm the consultant project management engineer, and that's over all of our design project managers in the district. But my true day job right now is solely Pensacola Bay Bridge. So I'm probably the best person to come and speak to you. If you call anybody at DOT right now, we're under a cone of silence for this project, so they will tell you to call me because I'm the only one who knows what they can say and what they can't say. So with that, I'll get started, and I think we'll do questions at the end. Okay. As everybody here knows, we're going to replace the existing structurally deficient Pensacola Bay Bridge that connects Pensacola and Gulf Breeze. This is a truly just a bridge replacement project. It's not a true capacity project. The traffic demands that are on the bridge right now in 98 itself warrant a 6-lane bridge, so we're building a 6-lane bridge. The roadway tie-ins, we're essentially just tying in to connect the new bridge to our existing system, and we make minor operational improvements as necessary when it comes to a bridge of this size. The key factors and timing of this project, I know if you were involved and went to the public hearings we had for the PD&E, the PD&E was signed off by Federal Highway in May of last year. So we're all very excited when that came because I could suddenly advertise the actual construction of the project. And what we do with Design Build, we do all of our major bridges in the state through the Design Build process because engineers and contractors working together on bridge projects have given us the most cost efficient, the most innovative bridges we have in the state. So it's really our ideal and preferred method for this type of project. The key elements of this bridge will be, actually we need to repair the existing bridge before we take traffic off of it. And then the goal is to get the new bridge, the new southbound bridge, in service as quick as possible. And we'll move the existing 4 lanes to the new bridge. To put emphasis on that, we added an achievable $15 million bonus for the contractors. They have to complete it within 860 days. So that is essentially a no excuse bonus. So in the end, it's you make it by this day, you get 15 million. If you don't, if you're 5 days late, you don't get anything. So it gives the carrot out there for the contractors to get in there and get that bridge built first. Now, we still got to do the design. We still got to finish the permitting process to get that bridge in place. So construction won't start day one. We have to actually design the bridge and get through that part of the process. The maximum contract duration we've set is 1,770 calendar days. The contractors, the true design build teams, they will actually bid their contract time. So this is the max, this is the ceiling, everybody bids under that time frame. Maintenance of traffic is something I'll get to in a minute in more detail, and aesthetics as well. As everybody knows, this is actually the Pensacola side. If you look to the right, that's north. You see the fishing bridge. This was the approved PD&E concept, which is essentially to construct the bridge, the new southbound bridge, slightly to the west of the existing bridge, and then we'll tear down the existing bridge and build the new northbound bridge. So in the end, this is very simple bridge construction. What makes this complex is the amount of traffic and the length of this bridge. So it's a very interesting add-ons to this project when it comes in terms of a true bridge replacement project. The typical sections we're looking at is primarily, like I said, 6 lanes on the new bridge. We are doing 2 10-foot shared use, multi-use paths. That is mainly to help with the true 4F, and you see the need. Now that we have truly 2 parks at both ends of the bridge, it's definitely an innovative, interesting item that kind of got added during the PD&E, and then we've expanded on it as we've advertised the contract, and I'll get into that because we've really put a significant focus on pedestrian features for this project. Because, I mean, if you think about 10-foot shared use paths, bridges of this size on the small spans are typically $120 a square foot. We're putting millions into the shared use paths. So why not you know, beef it up as much as we can and make it very inviting to not just vehicles, but pedestrians. Now, as far as the actual bridge itself, the gray line is kind of the new profile of the existing bridge, or it's approximate right now because it still has to be engineered. And the brown line or the khaki line is the existing bridge. What I tell everybody is the low spans, the longest part of the bridge, are probably going to be about 10 foot higher, and that is due to the coastal modeling we've done for storm events, where they look at truly storm surge coming in, so it's water elevation coming in high, and then you stack a wave on top of it. So we design for those forces when it comes to bridges. So our goal is bridge is going to last. We design for a 75-year life. We want it to withstand any type of hurricane event of that nature. Roadways, very easy to rebuild. I mean, we can get a roadway back in service in a few days. When concrete gets damaged, that's when it takes time to rebuild. So you'll see the channel clearances are going to be 15 foot higher and then about 25 foot wider than they are now at the true channel span. On the Pensacola side, we're essentially extending the limits of the roadway to get through the 17th Avenue intersection. It has needed capacity for turn lanes, so that's why you see the limits you see on this. The limits that the actual design build teams do and actually construct will be based on their specific designs. But if you wanted to say the minimums are essentially at the ends of the turn lanes, and then they'll tie in as appropriate. Now, Gulf Breeze-side. Gulf Breeze-side, what is very interesting about this, and I'll get into the details of the fourth later, we are making major improvements to the park, and that's part of the environmental process. Is whenever you impact a public park facility, you have to mitigate for any type of permanent loss to that facility and essentially make improvements. I mean, we avoid as much as possible, and that's the true key of that federal requirement. The tie-in in Gulf Breeze, it will essentially be, they will definitely get to the ends of the turn lanes for the new access roads into the park, but you know, these are, it's going to tie in as quick as possible to minimize costs. Now, from a 4F standpoint, this is a slide that was in the environmental document. The green area shows true designated 4F on the Gulf Breeze side. So that is land that we were trying to avoid impacts to. So in the red shaded area, those are the permanent impacts that we will do for this bridge replacement project. So that's what we are trying to mitigate for, those red, that small 1 acre area of impact. Now, these are truly just the conceptual drawings from the PD&E. Right now I have 5 design build teams involved in our process. They will come up with very innovative and interesting concept at the park. It's funny because bridges are very finite. We know how to build bridges, parks. These guys, they get very interested in it and get all sorts of creativity when it comes to parks. So I have no doubt, I've seen it occur at Choctawhatchee on US 331. So I'm looking forward to seeing the final park designs. But this is just the PD&E concept. So later on, after we award the contract, we'll have a true public meeting where everybody can come and see the new concepts that the winning design build team have. This is one of my favorite slides to put in presentations. One interesting aspect with this project is the Gulf Sturgeon. Part of the environmental document made numerous commitments related to Gulf Sturgeon. And what happens is the majority of our waterways in our district are designated critical habitat for Gulf Sturgeon. So as part of that, we've gone beyond our standard commitments, which are essentially watch out for them, don't impact them. If you see one dead, call this number. We went well beyond that with Gulf Sturgeon. We enter into a different type of true Section 7 consultation. That consultation has already occurred. It will be finalized as we go. But my son likes to call this fish the dinosaur catfish. So that's stuck in my mind the whole time as I've gone forward with this project. What's interesting is part of U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, that's essentially who governs the sturgeon in this bay. That's who we agreed to commitments with. So in part of those commitments, they're trying to monitor the species because it's endangered. So we pay for tags to be inserted into the Gulf Sturgeon. So this is a video of them actually installing tags into a sturgeon on another one of our projects, the Yellow River. And I thought it was interesting. This sturgeon, the needle he has is actually where he just inserts the little microchip. And then he has a little scanner that verifies his accuracy. So it's interesting, the fact that our DOT staff, they got off work that day and actually got to go fishing because they caught sturgeons and they tagged them with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. I didn't get to go. I don't know why, but I'm going to try to get on the next trip. I've been told we've already paid for our tags for Pensacola Bay, so I guess I lose that opportunity, but I'm sure we'll have more. But some of the things that are very interesting, the pile driving restrictions we have on this project are due to the species, truly. No nighttime pile driving for about half the year. And nighttime pile driving is not ideal anyway for contractors from a safety standpoint. So that's kind of an easier commitment to make. They're gonna have to stage their pile driving equipment. So in this bay, I anticipate at least 3 rigs out there. The teams will come up with their mode of transportation to get everything out there. And then on top of that, they'll have the true pile driving infrastructure there. So they have to provide low noise corridors for the sturgeon. So they're gonna have to space their pile driving equipment out. The minimum distance Fish and Wildlife told us was 1,500 feet. The maximum that they'd like to see is like 5,000 feet. So 5,000 feet is probably not the number because we would truly only have 3 places to drive in the bay at that point. But as that proceeds on, we'll see how that criteria gets tweaked. What's interesting on the Gulf Breeze side, the sandy area right around the causeway and around the park is like core foraging habitat for Gulf sturgeon. So apparently the little sturgeon like to go dig in the little granules and eat. They're only going to let us drive piles in that zone for like 3 months out of the year. It's 3 summer months, and that's the only time we can put piles in the ground because they do not want to disturb those baby sturgeon that come and forage in that little area. So that's kind of that's a major controlling impact. You got to definitely plan when you need to put those piles in the ground. You can only drive them in 3 months. Noise attenuation measures is another requirement, and that'll be whatever the teams come up with. Bubble curtains are a common way to do it, where they actually blow air into almost like PVC pipe. It blows bubbles up, and the bubbles in the water actually create a little curtain that kind of cushions the sound and dampens the sound of the piles getting just driven into the water. So we'll see what interesting, innovative noise attenuation measures they come out with. Noise monitoring is something DOT will do, so we'll actually measure the decibels for some of the pile driving, which will be the actual test piles. We'll monitor a specific number of those based on the zone of where they're located. But that's to come as we start that process. Maintenance of traffic is one I want to talk about, definitely since Chris and I had the conversation yesterday. We are planning to maintain all the existing travel lanes and turn lanes, so everything stays open. The intent is temporary lane closure restrictions. You can't close a lane essentially from 5 a.m. to 8 p.m. So the likelihood of them closing a lane are like for minor material deliveries, tying in like roadway paving to an area where traffic is actually going. So in the end, we do not anticipate too many lane closures at all. They should be able to fully keep all lanes open. Most of the materials that will come in by barge, all the beams, and this is a perfect barge setup. You got a very nice deep bay. The beams, piles, all that stuff will come in by barge. The posted speed limit, our goal is always to keep traffic flowing at the rate it's currently flowing. So the goal is to keep speed limit the way it is. Some geometric conditions may dictate that it go down, but we don't let it go down below like 10 miles per hour below what's existing out there. Road ranger service patrols. I don't know if you've seen these on the interstate recently. In the area, that's a fully manned pickup truck that has all the equipment necessary to help disabled vehicles. So change a flat tire, run out of gas, They got all sorts of equipment to make minor repairs. We'll have two of those service patrol trucks will roam the project during the day, and they will be on call in the evening time, I believe. So that's a minimum requirement. This is definitely beyond what we normally do with the maintenance of traffic, but we're very concerned about the maintenance of traffic on this project due to just the number of vehicles out here. So this road ranger service patrol is a needed expense that we're putting in the contract. The other part of it that we've charged the team with coming up with is active traffic management. So right now, the RFP, which is our contract document, it mandates that they actually have full camera coverage of the entire project, all their work areas. They actually have personnel monitor that area for any traffic flow instance that decrease the rate of the traffic flowing, and then they mitigate for that. Sometimes that mitigation are things like variable message signs, warning signs, all sorts of different things. So what the teams are doing right now, they'll come up with this plan and they'll show it to us in their technical proposal. So we've set minimum requirements in our contract. They'll come back with better requirements, with better commitments in their technical. So we're very interested to see what those are. But this is definitely above and beyond what we normally do on a construction project. And it's truly because of the traffic in this area. The right-of-way acquisition process, I don't know if any of you businesses are in the area of on the Gulf Breeze side. We are maintaining all the access. We will maintain access to your businesses, to your driveways. There's only a few, I think one near the access road that we actually have to close the driveway. All that will be discussed with the specific property owner during right-of-way negotiations. And right now, I checked with our right-of-way office. They're still doing their appraisals, but they've made first contact with all property owners affected. So if you haven't got a notice, you're not affected by our project. If you have questions about that, I've got a phone number at the end. You're welcome to call. But our goal is we have to have our right-of-way clear by December 15th of this year, so we can allow the contractors to work in those areas. The remaining acquisition steps that our office is going to do, right now they'll start contacting the affected property owners, and they'll make an offer to purchase your property that we need for this project. Primarily, and their end goal is always to negotiate with the property owner and settle on an amount and compensate you fairly for your property acquisitions. Chris did mention some concerns for like business damages, business impacts due to the actual project. The typical process for business damages is if we are acquiring the right of way and like we're taking a parking place and you're going to lose a parking place, you may see that as a damage to your business. So as part of the right of way negotiations, you can submit your price that you see it affecting your business. So that's just part of the normal process. But in the end, if our schedule gets constrained and we don't have too many property owners we need to acquire from, we will have to go through the eminent domain process where we actually file suit to go to court, and a judge will actually go to hearings all the time to actually document our need for the right of way and go through that process. But hopefully that won't occur. Like I said, but it occurs occasionally. So, okay, where we're at in the process. The Justice Score process, this is Design Build a Justice Score. This is our typical statewide standard process. We advertised this contract in October of last year. So at that point in time, we evoked the cone of silence. Fortunately, prior to that time, we've had the opportunity to meet with both the Mayor of Pensacola, the Mayor of Gulf Breeze, with Buzz Eddy, and we've had numerous, I got to accompany our secretary, and it was very interesting to hear their concerns related to this project. Because DOT, we see our concerns from a construction standpoint, but it's always very interesting to see the local government's concerns. So we've been trying to melt their concerns and resolve those concerns as well in our contract and as we proceed on. But from a timing standpoint, when we advertised in October, we invoked the cone of silence. So like I said, none of our DOT staff will talk to anybody about the procurement of this project. I am the main contact. Our procurement person, Renee Dodson, is also a good person to contact, but everybody else will send you to us, because like I said, they don't know what to say. Letters of interest, that's what we receive in the first phase of our process. Teams actually submit a 10-page letter. We have a 5-member technical review committee that scored those letters based on our standard statewide scoring allocation. And what we had, the scores, I've actually posted on, this is what's posted online for our shortlist that occurred December 9th. The 5 teams at the top are the teams that chose to go forward. DOT does not pick with this process. We actually score. The teams make a business decision and tell us, hey, we'd like to bid the project and go forward. So what I saw that was interesting about this, when you have, it's essentially 3.2 points between the highest score and the lowest score. On a project like this, we're about in a 100-point grading scale. Our budget's $450 million. So say $5 million. Well, each point is worth like $5 million. So to be 3.2 points behind, you're only like $15 million. Our bids won't be that close. So in the end, any one of these teams could have chose to go forward, but they truly do this from a business standpoint, because it takes a significant amount of money to prepare the proposals in the next phase of our process. So like I said, we got 5 teams going forward. Right now, we are having alternative technical concept meetings for aesthetics. And this ATC process, it actually goes on all this month. So I'm meeting with teams every 2 weeks at this point. So we'll go through this month and next month with nonstop meetings with teams to discuss their proposals. And those are private meetings with each team. The aesthetics concepts, it's interesting because you can approach aesthetics in 2 ways. You can develop, truly a minimum criteria that here's the bridge I want, and teams will give you a variation between that. So from a timing standpoint, we have the PD&E documents. So the PD&E graphics that I show in this are minimum, our base requirement. What we did was actually dedicate time in our schedule to have a true ATC aesthetic meetings to present to our chief engineer in the state, Tom Byron. He's actually sitting with us through all the meetings, and he actually gives thumbs up, thumbs down as to whether their aesthetics proposal meets their requirements. So in the end, once we get to that, that's in March, I think we'll have those. We'll know whether those teams can go forward based on if they achieved approval from Tom Byron for their aesthetics package. But like I said, it's a very interesting process. I would love to share it with you right now, but everything during our procurement process is exempt from public record, and we do that to ensure the integrity of our bid process. Because these contractors are so protective of their ideas. Like I said, there's a lot of money going into these proposals right now. So that's why we won't allow anything to go out. And our process is covered by our statute. But the emphasis we put on the slides I show you now are just basic requirements. These are the minimums. So give us something better than this. So we've encouraged all the teams to be very innovative. And in the end, they will submit their concept. Like I said, we will approve or deny. But in the end, our focus are on the slides I've shown you and the horizontal alignment. I know you've probably all driven over I-10 over Escambia Bay. That's you see the curve, the S-curve. The S-curve is the easiest way to build a bridge like this, because you can build 2 bridges off to the side, swing everything back in. I don't have to worry about waiting to tear down a bridge to build a bridge on top of it. Ideally, from an aesthetics concept, that was not preferred during the PD&E. So we're trying to keep everything horizontal alignment so it looks smooth and clean across the bay. The scenic overlooks are truly pedestrian features that were shown in the PD&E. That they're just little cutouts, blockouts on the side of the path that'll allow people to just get out of the way of the path and stop and look at the bay. So they're neat little features for a project like this. This is one of the pictures. Teams will come up with their own innovative ideas related to this. But what I want to show you with these slides is the PD&E study showed true hammerhead piers. So those are single column piers for each bridge. These look very good when they're tall. What happens when you get to the short sections, it's challenging to make the hammerhead piers not look beefy and bulky. So that's our charge with the team. Our charge with the team is aesthetics is a priority, not just from driving or walking across the bridge, but from the shoreline views. So when you're sitting in the park and I'm seeing this view, or you're walking down the fishing pier and seeing this view, we want everything to look good, not just the stuff up top. So that's our goal, to not build just a plain standard DOT bridge. Lighting, I threw these out there. These are just example pictures from other bridges. We are going to mandate aesthetic lighting of the substructure. And then, of course, we'll have roadway lighting and pathway lighting on top of the bridge. But this is interesting. The lighting will have color options. Everybody's arguing about who gets the control right now, so I don't know where to order that. Our office is in Milton, so we'll see. So some of the concepts we showed them were just this, just the really nice roadway lighting that has the unique aesthetics features, not just the plain standard DOT silver light pole. So everything blends together. The charge with the teams is make everything look like one composite project, not just adding on these little features here and there. So they're charged with blending everything together. We require them to have a bridge architect or a bridge engineer who has experience in aesthetics on their team. So it's not just our normal engineers we deal with every day. Because I'm one of those, we don't do aesthetics very well because we don't do it very often. But these guys who do it very often, it's amazing what they can come up with. So, the railing, the pedestrian railing, these are just a few of our standard railings that are very detailed, interesting railing. It's not just a plain generic rail. These are kind of the base requirements. The teams will come up with their own railing for the pedestrian area on the multi-use pass. I show these pictures because most of our contractors, they're so used to, we're not going to allow MSE walls, which is what's shown in like the top left picture. That's truly, you see the squares, and we have ties that hold the wall up. That's just not ideal next to a waterway like this with storm surge. So we're going to mandate true walls, so they'll probably design concrete walls. But they can do interesting enhancements to a plain standard concrete wall. So this was just to show the contractors, hey, come up with something interesting. So they will come up with their own ideas, but we threw this out there just so that they would say, oh, they don't want the standard look of a DOT wall. And that's what they're all wrapping their head around right now. So it's a challenge for us to get outside of the box, but we're doing that as well. Now, as far as where we're at now, I told you we're in the ATC process. May and June is when, early May, the teams will submit their technical proposals. Those will be the big documents that have all the fancy renderings in them, their plans in them, their approach to the project. That part of the process actually has an 80-point scale that the technical review committee will judge. Design, construction, value added, these are three of our normal scoring criteria, I would say. And we allocate points towards those. But the ones I show in purple, maintainable aesthetics and pedestrian features. These are the two that this is definitely not normal. This is specific to this process, this project itself. And we needed to allocate points to make our requirements actually feasible. Because contractors, I mean, they will look at cutting costs to win the bid. So what you do is you show them a carrot. You show them I can achieve 15 points for aesthetics. So I really need to show DOT something nice. Because like I said, 15 times 5 is 45. So 45, no, I'm doing my math wrong. 75. $75 million in aesthetics in those points. So roughly. Pedestrian features is 10. And truly we did that so teams would come up with unique ideas and not just show us a plain pedestrian path. Give us an entire project that will draw pedestrians to it and encourage them to use these paths. So in the end, we've dedicated a significant amount of points for these two features as part of this project. So in the end, that's that's the most efficient way to give the contractors the carrot for giving us something we really want. The bid opening right now is scheduled for July 26th. I'm trying to hold that letting date at all possible. That's actually the first month that the fiscal year 17 money is available. So we're letting it as quick as possible. Now I've told you about the scoring. In the end, the contractors will bid their time. I'll show you how to get our contract document if you want to read the weeds of everything that's in it. But they can achieve 2 bonus points at the end too, just based on the contract time they bid. Now what we do, we open it up. When we open bids, it'll have a bid price, and then we'll average our TRC scores together in the room that same day after we open the bids, and then we'll plug it into Excel and pop out our adjusted score. Low adjusted score is essentially the apparent winner in that room, and then we go to our selection committee after that, and they either approve the scores or reject them. But that is part of the process that will occur like middle of July. Now, if you're very interested in the weeds and want to review the contract document, I've added the link to our site. This is where we post addenda, like beginning of this week, I posted addendum 1 that's shown here. The final RFP shown in the other information column, that is the contract document that we finalized and Federal Highway approved. So that went out in December. So from this point forward, I issue modifications to that, and I will issue modifications through the addendum process. So the addendum shows you actually a red line markup of that document, of what we've changed. And we truly watch the process, and if we see things in our contract that's encouraging folks to do stuff we don't want to do, or we missed something we should have added, we'll modify that as we go. We modify, if you want to know the detailed schedule, the schedule of events is up there as well. There's numerous activities on it. You can see every meeting date we're having right now, but unfortunately you can't attend. But you're welcome to come to the bid opening. That is truly a public meeting. But in the end, this is where that information is if you're interested. Now, to make it even more confusing, we have a standard selection results page, and that's the graphic I showed you that showed the 5 teams earlier on in the show, in the slideshow. This is where that information is posted. So after July, after we bid and after we go to that selection meeting, middle of July, that's where the posting will come up that will show the final adjusted score for each team, and you can see who the parent winner is. But that website's our standard website. Every project in the state's on it that's actively in selection right now. I wanted to put contact information for a right-of-way office. We've actually have a consultant who's requiring right-of-way on this job, David Bell. David's in Pensacola, so he's not far away. I put his number on there if you want to give him a call, if you have any questions. Our right-of-way office, those guys are always happy to answer questions. I did incorrectly put the toll-free number. So what I'm going to do is give Kristen a revised slideshow, and she can post it later for y'all. Any questions about this project? I'm very hard to get up with my phone right now, but later, after this meeting. Okay. Any questions? Email me. Call me. Like I said, it takes a little while right now because I'm stuck in meetings all the time. But email, I got the phone right there. I usually respond to it very quickly. Now, this is for later. So, that's all I have for today. Can I answer questions? Yes.
I just have a couple of questions. As far as green technology, where's your green technology as far as solar and different things going to be compatible with the bridge? What is that?
We don't mandate specific green technologies, and I've actually had some conversations before it advertised with numerous companies about just different ideas. So the teams will actually propose ideas. What they will do, one of the advantages in our scoring process is actually maintenance and construction and maintenance. So maintenance, you save us a ton of money on lighting per se, by the use of solar panels or whatever. You know, they'll probably get a little credit from a point standpoint. So that's what they look at right now when they're proposing. So we allow the teams to come up with their own ideas.
That's
but
disappointing. That's very disappointing. It's a $15 million, whatever billion dollar project, and I also know that there's money available to do that from a government standpoint. The other question that I have for you, and it's my last one, you did a wonderful job today. First, let me say that. I know this is hard material to get through. It's very exciting. I had to control myself. But my other question would be to you is, what is the minority piece on this? Is it part of it? Is it required that 30% of this project go to minority contractors? Is that set in there? And what does that look like for our community?
Our normal state process is we have the disadvantaged business program and we have a small business program. So the disadvantaged business program you get qualified for. Small business program, you can talk to Tallahassee and find out how you qualify, but it's based on revenues. So what happens is in this contract, we've mandated, we don't mandate goals. Federal highway does not require us to mandate you have this portion. What we have are truly goals, per se. So our goals for this project, as every other project in the state, are 10% DBE and 3% small business. So that's a very significant amount on a $450 million contract.
13%. So it's not mandated, it's still by choice whether you use minorities or not.
Yes, and the caveat with that is, part of the federal process is, if states achieve their goals, then the federal process doesn't have to mandate. Right now in the state, we're achieving our goals from a statewide standpoint.
We're not locally, we're actually behind on a local level as far as minority contract. What about 8A contractors? Will this be an 8A project possibly?
8A is federal terminology. You have to get qualified from a state standpoint. From what I hear, 8A, if you're qualified 8A, you could get a DBE qualification pretty easily in the state. So yeah, it's perfect.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes?
Mine's much simpler. So your time frame for this was like 2.25 years to about 4.5 years, kind of a large variance. What do you think would really come in at?
I don't know. I've seen
that's
teams.
A big span of time.
I've seen teams like 331 over Tallahassee Bay. We set the contract time, the maximum duration at about 1,800 days. The contractor, the winning contractor, was at 1,300 days. So they cut, well over almost 2 years off the schedule. It just depends on their efficiencies. In all honesty, I mean, it depends on how their team is set up to mobilize, and if one contractor is doing it versus 3 contractors that are grouped together, and really what type of equipment they own, that the range in the contract time will probably be greater than the range in the bid. It's really hard to guess.
And then you're expecting normal traffic flow during that entire period?
No.
A little slow.
Our goal is to achieve normal traffic. That's not always what happens. In all honesty, what typically happens is people drive by, they see the pile driver rigs out there, they stop and look, and they run into the back of somebody. So it happens all the time. That's the worst part of this, is you have no shoulders on that existing bridge. So there's nowhere for, to truly get somebody out of there easily. So in the end, that's why we've charged the teams with what we've had. And in the end, we added millions of dollars with those requirements in there, but it's well worth it if we can keep the traffic flowing smoothly. Now what happens is, we have no control of what happens outside of our project limits. And I know you all know if something happens, 500 feet from the bridge, all the traffic's backed up on the bridge. So that's a little hard for us to control, but what we charge the teams with is to work with our local government and manage the signal timing as well. That will be key for the signals outside of our project limits. I can't promise you it's going to be painful. That's all I can tell you. I mean, it's not going to be pleasant, but in the end, we're going to try our best to keep the traffic flowing as efficiently as possible. Yes.
I'm just curious as to why there hasn't been a call for more public input on the aesthetics part from the community.
From a public input standpoint, the timing of this project, the PD&E went through its public process. There was not a lot of comments on aesthetics from a public standpoint in the NEPA document, at the public hearings. But, and then in the end, aesthetics kind of became more important as closer to where we advertised. What happens now is we will have our public meeting at the end after we award the contract. And it's interesting, it will be interesting to see what teams propose, but the timing of our schedule did not lend itself to actually being able to do that. I mean, if we delayed the project by a year or two, yeah, we could go through a very interesting process that I don't know everybody would agree on in the end, you know, because everybody has different ideas. Yes, ma'am.
If the project is awarded and then there is public input, does that mean the project could be changed?
Possibly. I mean, we have supplemental agreement process, and it really depends on what the change is, the magnitude of the change, because we're consuming the entire state bridge work program for 2017, and that was to avoid tolling the bridge. So we got full funding of the $450 million on the contract. So anything that greatly exceeds that would be a challenge. So that's the biggest concern. But there's definitely, we will listen to input. And in the end, I hope we'll be able to accommodate and make everybody happy. But I don't know if that's feasible, you know, in all honesty. Yes, sir.
Is there any provision to keep the waterway channel open the entire time?
Oh, yes. What will happen is we work closely with Coast Guard. When we start to close the channel, we can't set beams over the main channel while live boating traffic's on it. So they will actually work with the Coast Guard. They do notice to mariners and stuff while they actually shut down. They stage it. It really depends on what type of superstructure they propose as to how long that takes. If it's beams, it's one time frame. If it's a huge box cell, you know, it's a different time frame. So the team specific idea. But yeah, we work closely with the Coast Guard. Yes, ma'am.
I know I probably missed it. You're doing the bid process in July.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
What is there a projected? What's the actual start date of the project? And maybe I missed it.
No, you didn't.
Okay.
And it's really, I've assumed things when I think about this and I answer this question. The contractors, they definitely come up with their own scenarios and how they pursue a project. So what they do, our contract is based on, hey, I'm going to get done in this specific amount of time. They control everything that occurs in that time based on their design time, their construction equipment. But I'll tell everybody, what we're trying to do right now to speed up the process, we're starting a permit process. We submitted permits in December to Army Corps and DEP. As soon as we get an approval from probably DEP, we will submit our Coast Guard permit. And then the goal is I have all the permits ready for the teams. All they have to do is modify those permits based on their specific design, and that will get them in the water quicker. Ideally, I hope they can be in the water by the end of the year, where they truly start mobilizing. The right of way is ours. We have a huge TIF easement from DEP. The shoreline areas, that December date that I have the right of way acquisition being cleared by, that controls when they can work on the shoreline areas.
But do they have, once you give them a bid, do they have a certain timeline that they have to start? You know, they win the bid, and is there a time frame they have to begin on it?
Not specific. What we do is we have a time frame in which we issue a notice to proceed. That starts that contract time. So it's to their advantage, like that $15 million bonus. That 860 days starts day one that day. So yeah, they'll get on it as quick as possible just to try to get that $15 million.
Any more questions? We have time for one more question.
Yes, sir.
Could you address the issue of possible structural damage to businesses and residences that are close to the pile driving operation based upon the vibrations that would be caused to those structures?
Sure. In the contract, we actually have provisions for vibration monitoring and actual monitoring to ensure no structural damage occurs. It's all, our specification is governed by their type of pile driving hammer and the type of pile they're driving in relation to wherever that structure is. In the end, if you have specific concerns and you're close to that area, you're welcome to let me know as well, and we will keep our construction engineers who inspect the contractor on top of that. but by specification, they're only required to monitor within a specific range, and it really depends on their design. I couldn't tell you what that range is right now until they start showing us piles and stuff.
Because I understand that some DOTs, I don't know if Florida does or not, there is a impact study done to certain properties. They go and inspect the property before any construction starts.
Yep.
To get a baseline.
We do. We specify, like, the one I've specified for this project specifically is the Escambia Bay Fishing Pier, because it's in such close proximity. I know that one's close enough that it needs to be monitored. Everything else, it was really subject to design and where that business is located at. And the contractor in the end is responsible for any damage they cause. So some choose to monitor differently than others. But in the end, if you have concerns, you let me know and we'll work with you the whole time through our process while we're in construction. Yes, ma'am?
You said something about repairing the existing bridge.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that something that the contractor will also be including in their bid, or is that
Yes.
something that FDOT will do?
Actually, the way I've set the contract up, we've allocated like $5 million for repair work. Most of the repair work is, if you've been under the bridge, some of the concrete's falling and you can see there's steel rebar. For us, we need to patch that and get our strength back in those piers. So there are some interesting ways to do that, like carbon fiber wrap, where they actually have this material that wraps on the beam that they epoxy and actually provides strength and blends the member itself. Yes, that's in the contract. They won't bid that amount because I haven't been specific as to the scope of that work. So what we will do is almost like a force account system. They will do the work and they'll invoice us for it. Our construction engineer will review and confirm that's accurate amount, and then he will pay out of that $5 million pot for the repair work.
Thank you, Carrie.
You're welcome. The one thing I forgot to mention, I have these for Kristen, if you have right-of-way questions about our acquisition process, this is from our right-of-way office. It has Florida statute. It shows you all of your rights related to your property, and it might help answer any questions you have about right-of-way.